Christmas had always been a big deal for me. Growing up in a tiny town where winter practically glittered with the magic of twinkling lights and snow-dusted rooftops, the holiday season wasn't just a date on the calendar, it was a feeling. That's why, when I started dating Brian 2 years ago, I couldn't wait to share the joy of my favourite holiday with him and his family. Brian was complicated. He wasn't the type to gush about love or grand romantic gestures, but he had this quiet steadiness that made me feel safe. He'd told me early on that his family was old money, the kind that whispers about art galleries and country clubs instead of flaunting Lamborghinis. It didn't bother me. I loved Brian for his wit, not his wallet. So, when December rolled around and his parents still hadn't sent an invitation for their annual Christmas dinner, I was puzzled. We'd talked about the holidays back in October, and Brian had assured me that his family was excited to meet me. Yet here we were, days before Christmas, and radio silence. One night, as the snow piled up outside our apartment window, I finally asked him about it. "Brian," I began, setting down 2 steaming mugs of cocoa on the coffee table. "What's going on with Christmas? Are we not invited?" He avoided my gaze, staring too intently at the flickering flames in the fireplace. "It's complicated," he said after a long pause. "Complicated how?" I pressed, my heart sinking. "My parents? They're not ready to meet you yet," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. I blinked. "Not ready? We've been dating for 2 years, Brian. What does that even mean?" He sighed, running a hand through his perfectly tousled hair. "They've got concerns about us." "Concerns?" My voice cracked. "Brian, just spit it out." His jaw tightened. "They think you're after my money." The room felt like it had dropped 10 degrees. I stared at him, my heart thudding in disbelief. "They think I'm a gold digger." Brian's silence was answer enough. "You know that's not true," I said, my voice trembling. "You know I love you for you, right?" "I know that," he said quickly, reaching for my hand, "and I've told them that. But my parents, they're old-fashioned, protective. They just need time." "Time?" I echoed bitterly. "How much more time do they need, Brian? Another year? Another decade? Do they even want to meet me at all?" His silence was deafening. I pulled my hand away, tears stinging my eyes. "Do you think I'm a gold digger?" "No, of course not," he said, his voice desperate. "But this is just how they are. They're stubborn and you're okay with them disrespecting me?" I shot back, my voice rising. "Because that's what this is, Brian. Disrespect. They don't even know me. And they've already judged me." I spent Christmas Eve alone in our apartment, drowning my sorrows in cheap wine and half watching reruns of holiday specials. Brian had gone to his family's mansion in the countryside, despite my protests. "I'll talk to them," he'd promised before leaving. "I'll make them see how amazing you are." But his words felt hollow. The truth was, he'd chosen them over me. Around midnight, my phone buzzed with a text from my best friend, Jess. "Jess, girl, you deserve better. Come over. Let's make our own Christmas magic." Jess had been my rock ever since college. She was fiery and unapologetic, the kind of person who could walk into a room and own it. I grabbed my coat and headed out, the snow crunching beneath my boots as I made my way to her cozy little apartment. "Screw his parents," Jess declared as she poured us both a generous glass of eggnog. "If they can't see how incredible you are, that's their loss. And if Brian can't stand up for you, well?" She let the sentence hang, raising her eyebrows meaningfully. I knew she was right, but letting go of Brian felt impossible. The weeks that followed were tense. Brian returned from his family's Christmas dinner with vague assurances that things would improve, but the cracks in our relationship only deepened. He started working late more often, his phone always conveniently out of reach. One night, while he was in the shower, a notification popped up on his phone. It was from someone named Claire. "Claire, can't wait to see you again." Friday night. My stomach twisted. Claire was his ex, a glamorous, perfectly manicured woman who fit seamlessly into his family's world. My hands shook as I scrolled through their messages, each one a dagger to my heart. He'd been meeting her behind my back for weeks. When he stepped out of the bathroom, I confronted him, my voice shaking with rage. "Who is Claire?" His face went pale. "It's not what you think," he stammered. "Then what is it, Brian?" I demanded. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're stringing me along while keeping her on the side." Leaving Brian was the hardest decision I've ever made. but it was also the best. In the months that followed, I rebuilt my life piece by piece. Jess helped me move into a new apartment, and I threw myself into my work, finding joy in the little things again. Brian reached out a few times, apologizing and begging for another chance, but I knew I deserved better than someone who couldn't stand up for me, or be honest with me. This Christmas, I'll be spending the holiday with people who truly value me, and for the first time in a long time, I'm looking forward to it.